Picture this, 1904, the year is young, the Russian Navy, brimming with unearned confidence, decides to send its shiny new Baltic fleet on a little jaunt to the Far East. Destination, glory. Or at least that was the plan. They called it the 1st Pacific Squadron. Snazzy name, right? What could possibly go wrong? Turns out pretty much everything. Imagine a fleet of ships embarking on a journey halfway across the globe. Now imagine these ships being about as prepared for this journey as a goldfish is for a marathon. That, my friends, is the story of the 1st Pacific Squadron. This wasn't just a voyage, it was a comedy of errors on a nautical scale. A real-life slapstick routine with cannons and battleships. Buckle up, because this is history, folks, but not as your history teacher told it. So, what was the grand plan that sent these hapless sailors on their merry way? Well, Russia, being Russia, wanted to flex its muscles a bit. They had their eyes on some prime real estate in the Far East, Manchuria and Korea, and figured why not just pop over and claim it? The 1st Pacific Squadron was supposed to be their trump card, a show of force that would make the Japanese, their main rivals in the region, quiver in their boots. Spoiler alert, the Japanese didn't quiver. The mission, if you can call it that, was about as well thought out as a toddler's plan to build a house out of mashed potatoes. It was ambitious, ill-conceived, and destined to end in a glorious, hilarious mess. Now, even the most poorly planned voyage needs one crucial ingredient: fuel. In the early 20th century, that fuel was coal. Lots and lots of coal. And this is where the 1st Pacific Squadron's logistical brilliance truly shines. They didn't have enough. Imagine setting out on a cross-country road trip with half a tank of gas and a prayer. That's essentially what the Russian Navy did. They were forced to beg, borrow and steal coal from anyone willing to part with it. The result, delays, lots of delays. The squadron's progress resembled that of a sloth on tranquilizers. It was a masterclass in how not to manage a supply chain. Remember that whole mighty naval force thing? Yeah, about that. Turns out, the 1st Pacific Squadron had a bit of a problem with, shall we say, accuracy. During their leisurely cruise to the Far East, they managed to mistake some British fishing boats for Japanese warships. Naturally, they opened fire. The good news they missed. The bad news? They managed to spark an international incident that almost dragged Great Britain into a war. This wasn't an isolated incident, mind you. The 1st Pacific Squadron was plagued by accidents, mishaps, and general incompetence. It was like watching a group of toddlers play with fireworks. Entertaining, sure, but you knew it was only a matter of time before something blew up, sometimes literally. Section 5, the Baltic Sea is not the Pacific Navigation 101 fails. Now you might be thinking, hey, at least they had maps, right? Sure, they had maps, but using them effectively, that's a different story. The navigators on the 1st Pacific Squadron seemed to operate under the assumption that the Earth was flat and that sailing off the edge was a legitimate concern. They ran aground, they got lost, they even mistook landmarks for enemy ships. It was a comedy of navigational errors that would make even the most inept landlubber chuckle. Section 6, doggy diplomacy, a Pawlitical faux pas. Even when they weren't busy shooting at innocent fishermen or getting lost at sea, the 1st Pacific Squadron found ways to make headlines. One particularly bizarre incident involved a dog. You see, the Russian admiral had a pet dog that went missing in a port in Madagascar. Devastated, the admiral refused to leave until his furry friend was found. This delay, while heartwarming in its own way, only added to the squadron's growing list of misadventures. It's safe to say that international relations weren't exactly their strong suit. Section 7, the Battle of Tsushima, a comedy of errors. After months of misadventures, the 1st Pacific Squadron finally reached its destination, the Tsushima Strait. It did not go well. Facing off against a much more modern and better prepared Japanese fleet, the Russian ships were outmaneuvered, outgunned and outclassed. It was like watching a rusty jalopy trying to outrun a Ferrari. The Battle of Tsushima was a disaster for the Russians, a humiliating defeat that effectively ended their naval ambitions in the Far East. But hey, at least it was over quickly, right? Section 8, Aftermath and Legacy, picking up the pieces and the jokes. The 1st Pacific Squadron limped back to Russia, defeated and demoralized. Their epic journey had been a hilarious, if somewhat tragic, disaster. The Voyage of the Damned lived up to its name, but hey, every cloud has a silver lining, right? The misadventures of the 1st Pacific Squadron provided endless fodder for jokes, anecdotes and cautionary tales. They might not have won any battles, but they certainly won a special place in the annals of naval history, as a shining example of what not to do. Section 9, The Voyage of the Damned, a hilariously bad idea. The story of the 1st Pacific Squadron is a reminder that sometimes truth is stranger and funnier than fiction. It's a tale of incompetence, bad luck, and a healthy dose of hubris. So the next time you're feeling down about your own misadventures, remember the Voyage of the Damned. It might not make you feel better, but it'll certainly give you a good laugh. And in the end, isn't that what history is really for? Thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, please hit like and subscribe. A comment would be highly appreciated. It helps to figure out what kind of content you like and want to see in the future.